Navigating social occasions. So social occasions are so important, and we're a bit different in some respects, aren't we? Because we want people to go and be social.
Yeah.
We don't want people to be hermits. Do what it takes to get results. Like, go and live your best life, because that social connection, and it's all so important. And
It's the
it's
thing we always say, this isn't a diet or a restrictive thing by any means. It is a lifestyle change, and your lifestyle is going out and enjoying yourself. That is living life.
absolutely. And the thing is, if you have to change, how you socialize and interact with people just to get towards your goal, what happens when you get there? So
Yeah.
you need to be able to live and
Is it
enjoy.
worth
You
it?
need to be able to know how to live and enjoy your life now, whilst seeing fat loss, because what you do to get fat loss is what's going to allow you to maintain it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to learn how to do it when you're on that journey, because if you don't, as soon as you feel like, you're where you want to be, you're happy, and then you start to go and do those things again, you're not going to know how to control it and how to
Yeah,
navigate
No,
it.
it's just going to be so overwhelming. So when it comes to socials, there's basically three ways that you can look to navigate it, and how you navigate it is going to be dependent on how you feel about the event, maybe where you're at in your journey. And what we always say is there's no right or wrong way of doing it, but you've just basically got to know what the outcome is going to be, and align your expectations with that, and be okay with that. So we'll just talk through the three different ways now, and sort of how to do it, and what the expectation is if you choose to do that method. So Leanne, do you want to go first?
Yes, so the first way you can do it is fully accounted for, and that is pretty much what it says. You fully account for things. So if
Yep.
you're going to a restaurant, the calories are on the menu, you track in those calories. If you're eating something at home, you track in those calories, you scan the barcode. If the calories aren't there and available, you kind of do what we spoke about in a previous video, and you kind of pick the closest option that you can. So, if you're going to the local Italian, but it doesn't have calories on the menu, pull up the Bella Italia menu online and kind of compare the dishes.
Does that
and
still
pop
exist?
that in.
Oh
I
yeah.
think so. It does, doesn't it? Yeah, I was like,
I don't think there's as many as there used to be,
No.
but
We're going a bit extinct.
But yeah, so it is just fully accounting for the calories that you will be consuming on that day.
And the idea behind that one is you don't want it to have any level of impact in,
Yeah.
in your
You're
deficit at
focused
all.
on your goals.
And sometimes it's easier to do that than others. Like, for example, one that I always use an analogy is Nando's, because it's such an easy place to track and stuff.
I
And
love
you
a
can have a really
Nando's.
healthy meal. Maybe you're just going for a Nando's as part of you've gone shopping for your birthday or for Christmas with your mum or your friends, and you just stop in for some lunch. It's not a big thing. It's just we're grabbing lunch. It's like, well, does that really need to? Is that really an important one to impact your results that week? Not really. So I can fully account for it that way. And that's usually good when you can plan in advance, isn't it?
Yeah.
And have a bit of preparation, and you're organised with it. Laura, do you want to take the next one?
yeah. So next one would be loosely accounting for. So still accounting in some variation, but not being, as fully accountable as really accounting for it. So
Really?
yeah,
You never would have
can
guessed,
can
would you? Never would have
So
guessed.
there's a couple of ways that you can do this in. So one thing that I would recommend doing is banking calories throughout the week. So you could save, depending on what your calorie allowance is, then anywhere between sort of like 150 to 200, 250 per day leading up to, say you're going out on a Saturday, saving those calories up Monday to Friday, then that's going to give you a decent amount to play with on the Saturday. It's going to give you that extra little bit to play with. Or you could, if you're on like a higher calorie allowance each day, you could keep your other meals throughout the day a little bit lower calorie, a little bit higher volume, just to ensure that you are, still getting good meals in, not restricting yourself throughout that day, but leave yourself 500-600 calories for that meal. It's not going to be accurate. It's not going to be 100% accurate, but you're going to have some left over rather than just going into it and thinking, oh, well, I'm going out. I'm just not going to track anything. Just not going to.
Yeah, like you said, even if it is 200 calories out or something, 200 calories out is better than being not bothering
2,000
all.
calories
Yeah,
out, yeah.
absolutely. And one thing on the calorie banking note is, I think that's to be used not all the time. Like,
Yeah, it's not something I'd recommend clients do every week.
because if you do it every week, it's like you're like justifying like basically like a restrict overeat cycle, just because it's justified. It's like the intentions are still kind of there, and that's not what you want to do. That's really good in scenarios like maybe you're going to a wedding and like you pick the meal there and you know it's going to be a higher day. So it's like, well, that will be good for that. Or it's going to be a really big night out, or are you going to maybe your absolute favorite restaurant in the world, and you really want to see fat loss? Because that's the thing about loosely accounting for it. The expectation is you are probably still going to be in a deficit for the week. And you really want your favorite meal because I've got the best burger and the best cheesecake ever. It's like, but that's not going to fit into my calories unless I literally, like I said, starve myself all day, which we don't want you to do. Whereas if you then banked calories, you then had a 2,500 allowance, that's fine. And the thing to note, people don't understand is calories don't work on this 24-hour clock, which is what people think. It's like it sets at midnight. It's the law of averages. And that's why calorie banking can work, because the idea is your average for the week is the exact same. You just use a bit more on some days.
Yeah.
And then the final thing you can do is you can just, we label it as fully enjoyed, but we don't mean fully enjoyed, because you can absolutely, you will enjoy yourself at the others. But maybe in certain scenarios and situations, you don't want to be thinking about calories, and actually your calorie deficit is not as important as that event. So maybe it's your birthday and you just want to go and enjoy your birthday in full. You don't want to be thinking what's the lower calorie choice or the healthiest option. It's just, I just want to go and have X, or I just want to go and have Y. Maybe it's a really big celebration for you. And in those scenarios and situations, there is a chance, not always, that you will eat in a surplus, and maybe you will see maintenance or a small gain that week, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Because sometimes memories do matter more. But I think what you just have to remember is you can't do that every single weekend. Potentially in those scenarios and situations, because to be in a deficit, you have to create an element of restriction. Because you are not restricting in that sense, you're maybe actually more likely to then be able to just have that, enjoy it, and carry on. Whereas then you feel annoyed and deprived, and then that's where people can then start to overeat, because they have restricted in those scenarios and situations. And it's sometimes it can be quite hard to think, well, what's the best one for me to do? And that's where we can come in to give you what we think is the best input. And we will always give you strategies on how to navigate it mentally and practically that's going to be best for you across the board.